In this section, we're going to learn how we can add external resources to the project in order to use them in a .NET Maui application, such as images, fonts, and other types of files. We will finish by creating an application to put everything we have learned into practice. We're going to go to Visual Studio, and we're going to proceed to create a new project with the .NET Maui app template. We're going to name it External Resources Demo, for example, and we're going to create the project. In this specific video, we're going to focus on working with images. We're going to see the simple way to be able to import images into our .NET Maui based project, and for that we're going to use a folder called Resources, and inside a subfolder called Images. It is in that folder where we have to import each of the images that we're going to use as part of the project. In this case, we already have an image called .NET Bot, which we have used previously in some lessons. Perhaps a question you may be asking yourself right now is, what image format does a .NET Maui project accept? And the answer is that the most common formats used today are images with JPG extension, images with PNG extension, GIF, and nowadays also SVG files, which allow us to scale for different devices. We're going to do different tests with different images that I have previously prepared, and we're going to start with an image with JPG format. I'm going to proceed to drag and drop on this folder called Images the first image. Subsequently, we're going to go to the main page.xaml file. Let's remove this scroll view, and instead we will indicate that we want to use a grid element and inside an image control, specifying the source equal to shoe.jpg, which is the name of the file that we have imported as part of the project. Once we have done this, let's go to the code behind of this file. Let's remove this event handler, and we are ready to continue. Let's proceed to start the application to see how this image that we have imported looks like. And that's it. We already have here the application with the image that we have previously imported. It is this image of a shoe with an orange background. We can modify the background color of this layout to match the background color of the image. That's what I'm going to proceed to do. And once we have applied the change, we can already see the preview of the application with this orange background. This is how we can use JPG format images. One question you may ask yourself at this point is whether it is necessary to use the image extension. Let's remove the extension, save the changes, and see if any error occurs. We can see that absolutely nothing is happening. Therefore, we can use the image as such without the extension, unless you have two images that are named exactly the same but have different extensions. In that case, it would be valid to use the extension as part of this source property. Let's try the second image format, and the second format is the PNG format. I'm going to proceed to drag and drop this second image, which is called sun.png. I'm going to proceed to indicate that the source of the image or the image control is going to be equal to sun, and we're going to proceed to once again start the application running. Once the application has been deployed, we can already see this image of a sun. And the big difference with a JPG image is that a PNG image allows us to have a transparency. Therefore, if we change the background color to a color, for example sky blue, and save the changes, we see how the background changes to another color. But this silhouette of the sun is still maintained with all its transparency. Another image format that accepts this control is a GIF image. I'm going to proceed to drag and drop an image once again. This time it is this image called loader.gif. I'm going to indicate that the origin of the control is going to be the same as the loader. I save the changes, I start the execution of the application, and we can already see the image being displayed as part of the application. I will change the background color to match the image, applying a black background. And we see the image with the background that we have applied on the grid. However, we have a problem, and it is that although it is a GIF image, we cannot see some kind of movement. If you have worked with images of this type before, surely you know that one of the characteristics of this type of files is that they are images with movement. What can we do to enable this movement as part of the image? Well, we have to modify a property that is part of this control called isAnimationPlaying and assign a value true. In this way, if we go back to the application, we can see how the animation of the image is already playing with the GIF format. Finally, let's examine the SVG format image type. One of the problems you have in the world of mobile development is that because you have so many devices with so many resolutions, images must have different sizes to fit those different resolutions. Fortunately, the .NET Maui team has included support for SVG images, which will allow us to perform scaling automatically. Let's take a practical look at it. First, I'm going to import a file with PNG extension, so you can see the problem. Once we have imported this file, we will proceed to remove this property that we have assigned earlier, and we will indicate that we want to use this image called CircleOK. Let's save the changes, and let's try to start running the application. Immediately, we can see that as part of the output of the application, we have a problem that tells us that an invalid file name has been detected. And the problem lies in the fact that we have a file that contains capital letters. The description tells us that file names must be lowercase, must begin and end with a letter-like character, and must contain only alphanumeric characters or underscores. We have to rename the file name to make it valid. Let's rename it and give it only the name OK. We will indicate that we want to use this name. Let's start the execution once again. Once the application has been deployed, we can see this icon that we have assigned to the control that looks very bad. The image looks very pixelated because the image we imported was too small in size and we're trying to make it too big. Therefore, it is distorted. We're going to solve this problem and we're going to import a file with SVG extension. It is this image called network.svg. We're going to try to use it as part of the project. We start once again the execution of the application, and here we can already see the image being displayed as part of the control in the application. However, we have a problem, and it is that the image does not look good at all. It still looks pixelated, although it is an image with an SVG format. And maybe at this point you may think that the framework is not doing a good job in dealing with this type of images, but the truth is that we must establish as part of this image that we want to use a base size to perform the scaling on different devices. How can we accomplish this? Well, I'm going to stop at the project. I should go to the project properties by double-clicking on the project. In this case, it's called External Resources Demo. And once we go into the configuration file of the project, we must look for the section of the images, which is this one that we see on the screen. And as part of the section, we see that for the .NET Bot image, a property called base size is used, which allows us to specify what is going to be the base size to be able to carry out the scaling. What we can do is to copy this line. We're going to paste it and we're going to indicate that we want to modify the image called network so that it has a base size different from the initial size. Let's indicate a size, for example, 800 by 800. Let's see how this image behaves. With this modification, we start the execution of the application. And once we have made this change, we can see how the image looks correctly, although the image has been rescaled. Finally, as part of this entry in the configuration file, we can add an ink color to the image. We can do this by modifying the property called tint color. We can assign a color, for example, dark red, and we're going to test how this image that we have modified looks through this property. And with this change, we can see how the image has been modified by applying the color that we have specified above. This is how we can work with images in our projects based on .NET Maui.